Here's my question for you, given all that we've just discussed, which is only scratching the surface of the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden story. What about Barack Obama? Where's he? He's been awfully silent on this. His administration, you know damn well he fully knew what Hunter Biden was doing. You know, if your vice president's son is sitting on the Ukrainian board you guys are pushing to have investigated.
Barack Obama's hope and change myth gets smashed to bits by Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance in a takedown so brutal it leaves nothing standing. They rip apart his slick speeches, empty promises, and self-serving legacy, showing a guy who sold America charm instead of results. From foreign policy flops to domestic messes, party collapse to personal hypocrisy, his image turns to dust. What's left isn't a visionary leader, just a warning about branding over substance. The illusion's finally gone.
Brennan, who was running CIA under Obama, was confronted by a CIA officer about the flaws in the dossier. The guy was like, dude, we can't rely on this. Can't use this to say there was aspiration to help Trump. We shouldn't be sticking it in the annex to our report, or relying on it in any way. This needs to come out. It's fatally flawed. Brennan allegedly said, quote, yes, but doesn't it ring true? Holy cow.
Senator Vance, in Pittsburgh on Thursday, former President Barack Obama admonished black men for being hesitant about voting for Kamala Harris. I was wondering if you could contrast your approach to hesitant voters and how you tried to earn them over.
You know, first of all, I don't believe, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, whether you agree with Donald Trump or disagree with him, I don't believe in hectoring voters. I believe in persuading voters.
If you're vibing with this, hit subscribe and tap the bell. Barack Obama's been called a genius, even a messiah. But when Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance dive in, the fairy tale falls fast. The golden boy of politics gets peeled back to reveal a performance master who turned branding into art, leaving behind speeches, selfies, and not much else. For years, fans treated him like an untouchable icon, beyond criticism. Kelly and Vance swing a sledgehammer at that myth, leaving just an empty shell of hype.
More fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas' relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, it's the other basketball team, the Clippers, thank you, game without her. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with his both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no Michelle, according to TMZ.
Obama was pitched as the guy to heal America, promising unity, hope, and change. But Vance points out the real shift was in political marketing. His biggest win wasn't policy, it was self-promotion. His time in office was a masterclass in selling style over substance. Vance digs in, showing how Obama's smooth talk and calm vibe hit a man who dodged tough fights, dodged blame, and left a path of letdowns.
Your support is not something I'm given or something I'm owed. It's something you got to go out there and work for. So one, I just don't like the tone of going in. I mean, look, the better question for Barack Obama or anybody to ask is not why black men. It's not how dare you not vote for Kamala Harris. It's maybe they're thinking about voting for Donald Trump because they're sick of being censored. They're sick of being told what to do.
Obama's real talent wasn't leadership. It was branding himself as larger than life. He didn't govern. He auditioned for history. Every speech was staged like a TED Talk, every photo curated like an Instagram post before Instagram was a thing. Megyn Kelly calls him a politician who never stopped campaigning, even from the Oval Office. J.D. Vance backs it up, saying Obama's legacy is a mirage, a shiny product that crumbled when people stopped swooning over the delivery.
Pulled them all into the White House. They had a big meeting. And then literally the next day, they were like, Russia interfered to help Trump, and leaked it to all the reporters, Washington Post. And the suggestion is that Obama turned to them and said, I'm not having a report coming out of you guys saying that they didn't interfere. Our whole narrative is that Hillary would have won had it not been for the Russians. Now give me a report that says that. That's the implication. And that then the intel community did it.
Check the record. Obama's healthcare law was sold as a game changer, but turned into a bureaucratic mess with broken promises. People were told they could keep their doctors and plans with lower costs. Instead, millions got the opposite. Kelly rips into the arrogance of selling a dream that fell apart. J.D. Vance adds that Obama's focus on his big win blinded him to the damage it did to working families. Instead of fixing a broken system, he piled on complexity, costs, and chaos, all while patting himself on the back.
The Comeys and the Brennans of the world, of course, you got to follow the law. You can only prosecute people when they actually broke the law, but we know that a lot of people broke the law in the last administration, and they've got to face real justice, not just words, not just getting hauled before a committee in Capitol Hill. People broke the law, they have to actually be prosecuted for it, because I think that if they do that, if they know that the consequence for breaking the law is go to jail, then the next generation of Democrats, they're not going to try to.
And that's just domestic stuff. Obama's foreign policy was marketed as smart and peaceful, the fix for old school aggression. But what did it bring? ISIS rising, Libya in ruins, and a pivot to Asia that went nowhere. J.D. Vance doesn't hold back. Obama left the world more chaotic than he found it. His Middle East moves were naive at best, reckless at worst. Kelly calls out the craziness of a president who got a Nobel Peace Prize before doing anything, then spent 8 years running drone wars, fumbling red lines, and making costly mistakes. Even his inspiring words had a cost. Speeches don't fix broken systems, and slogans don't build bridges. He promised unity, but America grew more divided. He claimed to rise above race, yet racial tensions deepened. Kelly stabs deeper, noting how he built his career on big promises, but never delivered unity. Vance twists it, saying all the hope talk just made despair louder, distrust worse, and faith in government weaker. Then there's the arrogance, the smug lectures. Obama mastered talking down to Americans while acting like he was lifting them up. He loved being the smartest guy, the professor-in-chief with the last word. Kelly sees through it. It wasn't wisdom, it was condescension dressed as smarts. J.D. Vance joins in, hammering that Obama never saw himself as a public servant, but as their enlightened guide. He wasn't governing, he was scolding. The hypocrisy runs deeper. He campaigned as a man of the people, the voice of change. But now, multi-million-dollar Netflix deals, Martha's Vineyard estates, elite parties with the same system he claimed to oppose. Vance makes it clear, Obama turned his presidency into a cash cow. Kelly drives it home. He told Americans to tighten belts while living like royalty, leaving office for a lifestyle funded by the system he pretended to fight.
On Friday night, Tulsi Gabbard went on Fox News and said that she'd found documents that she was releasing that show, in sum and substance, that one day the intelligence community under Barack Obama was ready to come out and say that the Russians did not interfere in the 2016 election and really had no part in it, and that whole thing was kind of bullshit.
Even his political clout today is a shadow of the myth. Democrats still treat him like a holy relic, a voice they can't let go. But Kelly spots the irony. Despite endless speeches and endorsements, the party's weaker, more split, and less inspiring. J.D. Vance laughs that Obama, the great unifier, left Democrats fighting, obsessed with identity, and disconnected from workers. The savior myth is dead. What's left is a guy who sold himself, well, but couldn't lead. Kelly goes further, hitting the cult of personality. Obama wasn't just a politician. He was a brand, a celebrity, a cultural wave. People didn't vote for him. They worshipped him. But what happens when the spotlight dims? Vance answers. You're left with a legacy on shaky ground. A politician great at being loved, but bad at delivering.
I'm going to tee it up with this soundbite from the vice president who gave an interview to the Gateway Pundit. Said as follows. Stop 15.
I think the only thing the far left really responds to is power. The thing that they're actually going to be responsive to is the recognition that there are consequences on the other side. They get off scot-free. If they're never investigated, if they're never prosecuted when they violated the law, then they're just going to come back and do the exact same thing again. There are a few different ways, of course. So if tech companies that were censoring conservatives, they've got to know it's not going to be allowed.
The harsh truth Kelly uncovers is that Obama's time wasn't a win for progress. It's a warning about falling for charisma. He wasn't a revolutionary. He was a marketer, not a builder, a performer, not the future, a detour. Years later, the damage from his empty leadership still lingers. Foreign crises, domestic splits, economic struggles, cultural cracks, all with his fingerprints. By the end, Obama's not the flawless hero of history books. He's the guy who nailed presentation but flunked substance, dazzling America without improving it, preaching hope but leaving disillusionment. Kelly and Vance peel back the last myth layers, leaving a raw, honest picture. He wasn't the savior, just the salesman. The takeaway? Obama's remembered not as the transformer he claimed, but as a cautionary tale of speeches over solutions, branding over vision, a legacy built on nothing solid.
That they concluded in this House document that the Intelligence Community Assessment, or ICA, of January 17 was subject, quoting here, to unusual directives from President Obama and senior political appointees, particularly CIA Director Brennan. Unlike, still quoting, routine intelligence community analysis, this ICA was a high-profile product ordered by the president, directed by senior IC agency heads, and created by just 5 CIA analysts, using one principal drafter.
Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance don't just roast him, they shatter the illusion. They expose a man who wanted to be larger than life, but will be remembered as a president who looked the part but delivered zilch. The sharpest cut isn't just his failures, it's how he acts like they don't matter. Even now, out of office, Obama floats above the mess he made, lecturing from a high perch where accountability doesn't reach. He talks democracy, but ignores how his time eroded trust in government. He warns about misinformation, but forgets his polished stories were the first fake news. His legacy isn't hope, it's the influencer politician, treating governance like content creation. Kelly digs deeper, saying his legacy isn't just his own mediocrity, but what he left. A Democratic Party hooked on theatrics, lost in identity politics, and unable to produce real leaders.
Be some momentum picking up in the rumor mill about their marriage. First, on January 15th, in the Substack of Jessica Reed Krause, also known as House and Habit, she posts the following. Michelle Obama's absence at Jimmy Carter's funeral certainly raised some eyebrows, but yesterday's announcement that she won't be attending Trump's inauguration confirms something is definitely going on between her and Barack. Whispers about cracks in their relationship have been circulating in D.C. for over a year now, but this feels like the first public proof of a marriage on the rocks. If I had to guess, they will wait until after the inauguration to announce it. Timing, is everything. And yet the story doesn't end there. For months, I've heard Jennifer Aniston's name tied to Barack. Then
the proof of that flop is everywhere. Obama was supposed to kick off a new era of Democratic power. Instead, his watch saw the party lose seats at state and local levels. By the end, Republicans controlled more governorships, legislatures, and Congress seats than in decades. That's not progress, that's a collapse. Megyn Kelly laughs at the absurdity of a genius overseeing his party's downfall. J.D. Vance drives it home. Obama left Democrats weaker, losing working-class support, leaning on cultural elites who can't win elections. Yet he still struts onto stages like history's on his side, writing memoirs longer than a novel, giving smug interviews, claiming no one gets it like he does, and throwing lavish Martha's Vineyard parties that make palaces look tame.
that intelligence community assessment of January 17 was set to downplay Russian interference in the 16 election. Then, after a meeting with Obama and the top intelligence community officials, or at Obama's direction at least, the intelligence community did a complete 180 and played up Russian interference instead of playing it down. And we learned
He wants to be seen as a statesman, a thinker, above the political mess. But Kelly cuts through it. Obama's not above it. He caused it. His presidency fueled the divisions he now lectures about fixing. His arrogance shaped the politics he now critiques. The real sting of Kelly and Vance's takedown is this final truth. Obama's story is a warning, not inspiration. He proves charisma without substance is dangerous. Speeches without fixes erode trust. And style without results is betrayal. He didn't fail for lack of chances. He failed because he bought his own hype, thinking history would bow to his words, applause equal progress, and branding could replace vision. By the end, Obama's myth is rubble. Kelly and Vance leave no scraps for historians to polish, reducing America's great orator to ruins. No more hope icon, no more untouchable symbol. Obama stands exposed as the guy who promised transformation but delivered disappointment, chased history but tripped into mediocrity, wanted to be a giant but will be a warning.